My name is Ashley, and this is Let's Talk Dispatch.
I do. You're gonna do it. Do it really well.
And I believe the world needs more dispatchers.
Around in the mud, blood, and beer.
Years that I'm not working 4th of July. 4th of July.
Say community policing, right? What about community dispatching?
So on this show, with the help of my guests, we will educate, empower, and support the heroes behind the headset. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode here of Let's Talk Dispatch with me, Ashley, in the Raspy Dispatcher. It's definitely at this point, middle of October, spooky season, as they say. And I know for dispatchers out there, it could be a really weird time to be answering 911 calls. And in actually preparing for this episode and what should my opener be? What should I talk about? I remembered this random 911 call popped into my head that I received in the very beginning of my dispatching. And we got a call. Someone was reporting a hand sticking out of a trunk of a car and waving around. So, we dropped the call with the priority that a hand waving out of a trunk of a car should receive. And, everybody went out, and come to find out the hand waving in the trunk of the car was Halloween decorations. So for all the dispatchers and first responders out there, I hope your October is running smoothly and the chaos is limited because it's definitely a wild month for all of us out there. Today, I'm very excited to bring on my guest, Andrea King-Smith from Carbyne, to talk about their company and their experience as a dispatcher. Andrea, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
I am so happy to have you. And we've, like we were talking about before, we were playing a little podcast tag here.
Yes.
It took us a long while to get this one going, and I'm so excited that we were able to make it happen.
Yes, it was podcast tag. But you know what? Everything happens in its perfect timing. So exactly. Today was the day we were meant to be together.
So true. So just tell us a little bit about yourself and your experience in the public communications and safety world.
Yeah, well, so I was laughing at your story about the hand hanging out the trunk because let me tell you, when I was a dispatcher, Halloween was my least favorite holiday to work. New Year's Eve, 4th of July, I would take them all over Halloween. But and it's for reasons like that, all of those calls. But so my name is Andrea King-Smith. I just recently added the Smith, so if you knew me as King, I got to inherit someone's name when I recently got married.
Congratulations!
Thank you. And I currently am a customer success manager with Carbyne. And I know we'll talk a little bit more about Carbyne later, but my experience mostly lies in public safety in the 911 center. So I worked for the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department and their communications bureau for 14 years, just about. I was a call taker. I started when I was 19 years old. I was a baby, the baby of the center. And I grew up in that building. I was a call taker, a dispatcher, a CTO. When I left, I had spent the last 5 years as a supervisor, an operations supervisor. And it was an amazing journey. Like I said, I grew up there. Those were some of my closest friends, and I really, really enjoyed my time there. And then in December of last year, so we're about 10 months into my new career, but in December, I left for an opportunity to join the private sector. And it was an opportunity for some personal and professional growth. It was an opportunity to kind of hone in on some professional communication skills, do more of what I wanted to do on a broader scale, which was just promote technology and diversity in 911 and do it all over the country. And my company actually is global, so we touch emergency call centers all over the world. And it was an incredible opportunity and still the scariest thing I've ever done. 911.
Yeah, and I think that is something that a lot of folks are struggling with, I would imagine, is like the next step, like what is out there, and leaving the comfort of like there's always going to be a 911 call to answer. There's always going to be a job here for me, and exploring this like private sector world that also needs dispatchers, former dispatchers in it, especially in these companies who serve comm centers, right?
Absolutely.
And it's definitely scary to take that leap into something that's so different, so new. And I commend you for doing it. I mean, it's awesome.
Thank you. And you touched on one of the reasons why I took the opportunity and accepted the opportunity is a lot of the vendors, from my experience as the customer, because I was the customer for a long time, I was the end user for a long time. And I started to recognize that a lot of these vendors didn't come from this world. They've never sat in this seat. They've never worn that headset. And you know, us in dispatch, we're like, who are you to tell me what I need, how I should be doing it when you've never lived this life? You've never sat in the seat. You've never taken a 911 call. And so I really jumped at the opportunity to kind of bridge my experience in the 911 center with, and my experience being the customer with, you know, the vendor side, and kind of just bringing the two together. And I'm very fortunate that I work for a company that has allowed me to do just that. I am an SME for my company when it comes to matters of 911 emergency communication centers. And I very proudly give them my experience when it comes to making decisions. And it's a lot of fun too.
Yeah, I bet. And you know, we touched a little bit before we jumped on here, because you spent your time growing as a dispatcher in Las Vegas. And I mean, talk about like learning to dispatch on a bicycle that's on fire going through, like, you know what I mean? Like Vegas and Halloween time, I would hate. That would be my worst holiday too.
Yes.
I mean,
it's almost like you were there, Ashley.
I feel like it.
Yes, that was what it was like a lot of the time, actually. Dispatching in Las Vegas is crazy because, you know, most people know Las Vegas as the Strip. They know the casinos, they know downtown, the big pretty lights. But we have a population of 2.7 million people. And so and that's on the residential side. And Las Vegas is a huge melting pot, extremely diverse. People from, you know, all different nations that live here. So many different cultural differences. And that often made it just, it was never a dull moment. It was never a dull moment. And, you know, a lot of things happen. We just recently, so 2 days ago was the anniversary of our mass casualty incident that happened on October 1st of 2017. And, you know, days that will live in my mind forever. That's absolutely one of them. And so that's partially what I mean when I said I grew up there. You know, incidents like that force you to grow up. And so experiencing some of those things definitely helped mold me into who I am today, and kind of drove me to want to be a part of the change that is happening in dispatch, especially when it comes to technology.
For sure. Did you work that day for that incident?
You know, I was just reliving that whole like day with my husband. And I was like, you know, I remember every single thing that I did that day. And I was on graveyard shift, and it was my first day off. It was a Sunday. So I got off that morning, the morning of October 1st at 7 a.m. And I spent the day hanging out with some friends. We went to the Great American Foodie Fest. Like, I'll never forget every detail of this day. And it was the beginning of my weekend. So I was not scheduled to go back into work that night. And at about 9:45, I actually got into the bed. And then at about 10:15, we got a message asking for whoever could come in to come in. And so I knew the call had gone out and I needed to get there. So the shooting happened at 10:08. I arrived at work at about 10:45 and stayed for the next several hours, and then the next 12 days. So it was the craziest thing I've ever experienced. I remember when the Pulse nightclub shooting happened in Orlando. I remember thinking, because it was, I believe, a year or two before our shooting happened. And I remember thinking, God, I don't ever want to experience those type of phone calls. Like, I never want to hear that. And then, when our shooting happened, I heard those phone calls, and they were horrendous. I think the scariest part was just not knowing what was going on, because we didn't for several hours know exactly what was going on.
Yeah.
And then learning that officers had been shot, learning that one of our officers had been killed, and learning that my friends were there, people that I know and love were concert goers, were officers responding to the scene. It was scary. The emotions just were all over the place. And we had a job to do. We had to show up and work, and so we did. And I'll forever be proud of, my brothers and sisters at the Las Vegas Metro Police Department that I worked with that night, that week, and going forward, because they did something, we all did something that I pray no one, has to do ever.
Yeah. And I mean, talk about when we have this big debate, right, about the level of first responder that dispatchers are, right? I mean, when you're getting in bed, you probably got the most comfortable jammies on, like
I did.
Weekend, and then you get a call, you get called in, and you're in the middle of a crisis, and if that's just not highlighting the first responder that the dispatcher is, it really does go unnoticed sometimes, because I think one of the big events that comes to mind is like September 11th. Like when I was a kid, and when I think about September 11th, I thought about the firefighters, the officers, all the folks on the ground going into the building. Like that was my initial thought. Now every year when September 11th comes around, the first thought I have is dispatchers, like the dispatchers who had to listen to these phone calls and figure out where to send folks, and sometimes tell folks no one's coming. You know what I mean? Like that reality.
It is. You can take it even deeper. So yeah, I jumped out of bed and I went to work, but I also was fielding the phone calls and providing the first information. Our call takers were providing the information as best as they could to the officers who were on the scene and still didn't understand what was going on and were en route. And, so talk about getting that first piece of information. And that's the first responder part of it, is that call, getting that citizen getting from the phone call to the officer. There's a human being that is the first point of contact for them. And without that human being under the headset, emergency communications would not be what it is today.
So true. So true. Yeah. And even for folks who maybe necessarily didn't come into work that day, just being a part of a department that's has to deal with the ripple effect of a traumatic event, from a mass shooting to an officer involved shooting to, an officer in line of duty death. I mean, even if you didn't work the incident, I mean, you're feeling it,
Absolutely.
If you knew the officer had a personal relationship or not, there's a ripple effect that happens as a first responder, as a dispatcher, from any event, that takes place in an agency.
It's so true, Ashley. Like when our mass casualty incident happened, like I said, we lost an officer in the line of duty, Officer Charleston Hartfield. And so he had a full honors police line of duty death funeral. And I didn't know him personally, and I knew a lot of my coworkers did. And so when there was discussion about who was going to do his final call on the radio, I told my director at the time, I was like, I will do that. I'll take that on, and I'll do it. I thought it would be a lot easier for me because I didn't know him personally. It was the hardest thing I've ever done in my career.
Yeah.
The hardest thing that I've ever done. And I told myself, I said, I could go the rest of my career and I pray I never have to. I pray nobody ever has to do this again, but I certainly don't want it to be me.
Yeah. I mean, I had my department, we had an officer in line of duty death, and being there and hearing that last final radio traffic go out, announcing it essentially. I mean, I don't know how folks can get through that transmission without cracking. I mean, that's a tough weight to bear for any dispatcher, known or not. I mean, so the fact that you even volunteered to do that for your people, I mean, I think speaks volumes of who you are and who you've grown to be in that department and for that department.
Yeah, it was a sad honor. I was honored to do it, and it was tragically sad.
Yeah, I mean, I went to the full, service and all that, and it is. If I never have to go to another officer, full honor, like I would be okay with that. Like they are.
Listen, Amazing Grace on bagpipes gives me PTSD. It is the biggest trigger for me, right?
Oh
I
my gosh.
can't
Like
hear
seriously. It really is.
It's
They're
rough.
tough.
I hope that we stop having to have that happen. I hope that, there comes a day where we don't have to attend those anymore.
Yeah. But when we talk about dispatch and we do talk about the realities of the job and the trauma that we do willingly open ourselves up to, this is part of it, right? Is that we do have these situations where either our citizens are harmed in a horrific manner, and that affects us, or our units or our responding folks are harmed, and that affects us greatly as well. And that is definitely part of the realities of this job.
Which is absolutely why dispatchers should be classified as first responders.
Yeah, it's wild, right? Oh my gosh.
I remember I think it was APCO 2018, the national conference. The then FCC chairman, Ajit Pai, was there as a keynote speaker. And he said something that I will never forget. He said, not classifying 911 communicators as first responders is divorce from reality, and we must correct our mistake. And that was a direct quote from him. And I'm like, it is. It's an obvious mistake that happened somewhere, and it needs to be changed. It just does.
1,000%.
Yeah.
So true. Well, thank you for share. I know that's tough.
Yeah.
It's always a weird, it's that weird question, what's the craziest call or hardest call? It's always a hard topic for dispatchers. So thank you for just being vulnerable and sharing your big incident. I think that's hard for us to do. And I appreciate you doing it here on this type of platform so folks can learn from it.
Yes, of course. I think that for a long time, people are afraid, and sometimes now people still are afraid to share. But it's how we heal, and it's how we learn from each other, and truly, there is healing in telling your story. So thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, for sure. Well, tell us a little bit about Carbyne and the company and your experience there so far.
Yes, so Carbyne is a technology company. We provide a few different solutions. One of our solutions is called Universe. It's a cloud native over-the-top application that brings multimedia into the 911 center. So, we keep hearing, we've heard for the last 20 years what the words next generation 911. This is it. This is the future generation of 911 is what I like to call it, where we're bringing video into 911 and silent chat, which is different from text messages, into 911, and the ability for 911 centers to ingest photos and that type of media from callers that are on the scene reporting their incidents, and a number of other different outside of the box situations as well. So that's Universe. We also have a call handling platform called Apex. And it is a 911 phone system that is fully cloud native. And it incorporates all of Universe, that application, which brings in all the multimedia, into the phone system, into one platform, one screen. And it delivers your 911 calls into your center over the cloud, over EZNet. And it's revolutionizing what 911 centers are able to do. So those are our two main solutions for 911 centers. And honestly, it is truly incredible technology. It's technology that combines the ability to collect someone's location, even when they didn't call 911, by sending a text message and gaining access to their location from their device itself. So from their actual phone, no more cell phone tower triangulation. And it takes that and combines it with the multimedia piece, bringing that media into the 911 center, because in today's age, people are going to pick up their phones and record something before they ever consider calling 911.
Ain't that the truth?
So to take that information and it, for me, it's about meeting people where they are. You know, there's several generations now today, and that youngest generation, that Gen Z and even younger, all they know how to do is swipe on their phones. They know technology, and to meet them where they are, Carbyne takes the technology and brings it into the 911 center. And what I tell people, you know, about the technology is Carbyne didn't create this technology, right? This exists. If your Uber driver can drive up to you on the sidewalk and because they know your location, or you can video chat with your insurance agent and show them your accident at the scene. This is technology that's already out there. Carbyne has captured that through you know, patented technology and coding and put it into a platform that brings it into a 911 center where it should be. 911 centers need that now. So.
Isn't it funny how it feels like 911 centers, like we're the last one to get this technology, right? It's like, how Uber get it first? You know what I mean? Like,
right.
who they know, you know? So
exactly.
It's, I think, you know, the fact that Carbyne is, especially the video, the media aspects, like there's been countless times where I've had someone who's like, well, can I just send you a picture? And you're like, no, where are you gonna send it? Like,
where?
Where's my personal phone? No, I don't want that on my phone. You know, it's the pin of my device. No. You know, like
right.
No. So the fact that you guys are, as a company, are finding ways to integrate this, especially in the phone system, that it's all popping up on our computer screens. Is that how I'm understanding it? Is if it pops up on the computer, and then I can send it directly to my officers, I would imagine, in some way, if not a screenshot, you know, but you know, in some way I could just get it right to them. I mean, that.
And it's funny you say that, because that is also part of Carbyne technology. It's called Responder Connect. Yeah. And the call taker can take a live video stream, because remember, it's a video stream. It's not two-way video. The caller will never see the call taker. But the call taker can take that video stream and send the officers, the field responder, officers, firefighter, battalion chief, whoever it may be, a link to that exact stream while it's live, while it's happening. And so they can start to make decisions before they even arrive at the scene. And so I often ask, especially when I'm, you know, traveling and I'm speaking at conferences, or I'm talking and teaching about Carbyne, and especially when I'm talking to officers, is, do you have to be on the scene to start making scene decisions? And in the past, it's like, yeah, because you don't know what you're walking into. You don't know what's going on there. But with this type of technology, with Carbyne technology, the answer is not, you know, yes, you don't have to be on the scene. The answer is no. You can start making decisions and gaining situational awareness before you ever even arrive, because we've connected the caller to the dispatcher to the officer to make a seamless transition of information before someone even arrives on the scene.
So true. And I mean, it takes a lot of the telephone out of what we have to do in dispatch, right? Because I know I've talked to like my officers currently in the past, and I'm just like, the end of the call, the person on the call is like, there's blood everywhere. There's just blood on the walls, there's blood on the floor. Someone's obviously been injured here. And then the officers get there and they clear it as like, no crime. And you're like, wait. Where did all the blood go? Like, what? And then they're like, oh, it was like 3 drops of blood. And you're like, someone, you know, cut their hand cutting an onion. You know, you're just like,
right.
That person described this scene as a horror film. And that's what we have to give the officers, right? We have to, whatever they say, the way they say it. even if it's lighting up that dispatcher gun, you're like, I don't know if this is true. We have to give it the way it's being given to us. So if I'm able to go, blood on the wall, show me, you know, and I'm like,
exactly.
oh, 3 drops, you know, we're going to respond differently to 3 drops versus blood all over the place, right? So
it's so true. And so while Carbyne is certainly great for those emergency situations, and we have several success stories, and I'll tell you, you know, 1 or 2 here in a minute, but it's perfect for that. It's what you want in a time when someone is in a dire emergency. But my favorite part of Carbyne is the ability to send a link to someone's cell phone when they have not called 911, not only obtain their location, because that's the biggest part of it, but start a video session with them when it's not necessarily an emergency, or they haven't called 911, or it's a third party reporting, and now you're trying to contact the involved party and ask that question like, okay, blood on the wall, show me. And those are some of those out of the box ways to use it. And also it can be used for times, like you said, to mitigate our response and, you know, over convergence. So we have a customer who their officers, I was talking to their officers, and they said that they used it to kind of help slow down the momentum and change kind of their course of action. They got a call of a suicidal male. The wife was calling, said her husband was suicidal and there's a gun involved. And because the wife was so hysterical, the way it was being reported over the radio was all that the dispatcher could get. A hysterical wife, she says they're fighting over a gun, husband wants to kill himself. Well, when they sent the link to the wife, they were able to see that, yes, there was a gun. It was inside the house. They couldn't even see it because husband and wife were outside the house. Wife was standing in front of the door trying to prevent husband from going inside. And what sounded very violent and volatile on the radio, on the phone, and was reported over the radio was actually a male in extreme mental distress, crying, just really needing some help. And so those officers were able to slow their momentum, you know, reassess their plan of action, bring a little less units, a little more medical, and get there and secure the scene safely, you know, without anyone getting hurt, or over convergence of officers, or, you know, over response of their units. So that's another way it can be used to kind of help.
It gives them clarity to what's actually going on. Because I mean, I can't even tell you the amount of times where I'm just like, you know, I don't know what's happening. It sounds like distress. Like I can't get anything other than it sounds wild. You know what I mean?
Right.
You know,
unknown trouble calls, but there's trouble.
Like something's happening and we need to go. I'm still trying to figure it out. You guys start heading that way. You know, we're still working on it. And then, you know, and then of course the officers are asking, to a fault sometimes, the questions as if we didn't ask those questions.
As if
already,
we never
right?
thought to ask.
Did you ask if they're like, of course we asked those questions. It doesn't mean they're going to answer the question.
Nope.
I can only give you the information that is provided to me, right? But if we're able to visually see the scene, and I think there's definitely some hesitation for dispatchers to get in the visual aspect of emergency response. I'm definitely be them seeing us, right? Like there's a big like, no, I'm good with that. And I think there is also a level of like dispatchers not wanting to see the blood on the walls. Like that's why I'm a dispatcher. I don't want to see the blood on the walls. But the reality is the technology is coming. Absolutely. And that may definitely end up being a part of our job, right? And across the board. Me, I'm foreseeing it. Like I think the more
show me the blood.
Right, show me the blood. The more information I have to provide my officers, folks in the room, you know, I want that. Like whatever technology is going to give me that, I want it in my center.
Yeah.
You know?
There's definitely hesitation and resistance. And when I teach a course that I've taught several times this year in the 911 conference circle is about change management and how to mitigate change resistance in 911 because it exists. And from my experience being in leadership in a 911 center and a very large 911 center and dealing with a number of different personalities, you learn that there is not one way that's going to fit for everybody. And so when I came into Carbyne, I asked a lot of questions about everything that you just mentioned. What about the dispatchers and call takers that don't want to see it? What about their mental health? How are we protecting them from things that they shouldn't see or don't want to see? And Carbyne has considered those things. So in our Universe platform, that video is never opened until the call taker opens it. So they don't ever have to see it, but it'll still record to the background. So it can still be sent to officers. It can still be sent and used. It's still stored and can be used for evidentiary purposes, investigation, follow up later.
That is awesome.
Yeah, but the call taker controls if they see it or not.
Yeah.
And our customers, the 911 centers that are currently using Carbyne, most of them put it in policy that it's up to call taker discretion. So when the call taker feels that it's important to send that link or activate that video session, then they do. There's, one of our customers who puts it on the officers. They say, we're for liability reasons, we're taking our call takers out of it. If you want the link sent, then you ask the dispatcher to send the link and then they'll send it. And then they never have to see it. We have a customer who their real-time crime center is the only ones that look at the video. So they are in another building and the dispatcher sends the link and they start the session, but the real-time crime center is the one that's analyzing the video. And so there are a number of ways to do it, but the ultimate goal of all of those different considerations is the dispatcher's mental well-being.
Yeah.
When I'm in customer success, and when my partner and I, Drew Clark, if anyone knows him, he's the best. And you got to have him on here. But
okay, definitely. Write that name down. No, don't forget.
Yes, Drew Clark. When we go out and teach and train users, 911 call takers and dispatchers how to use it, we train on the use case. We don't teach that this should be used on every call because it shouldn't be used on every call. There are some things that you should not want to see, and it's not going to add value to that response by looking at it. So we train on the use case. We train on what types of calls does your agency typically get? What are your most difficult calls to deal with? How could having, another tool for getting location help you in this situation? Or how could having a tool for absorbing or ingesting photos help you in this location? If you have a lot of traffic accidents, your rush hour blows up your 911 center because of traffic accidents, and nobody has enough traffic officers to respond.
True.
So maybe you can use this and send the link to get photos, have the callers, the involved parties upload their photos to Carbyne Universe, and then traffic officers and investigators can look at that later and they can send a report that way. That way we're not stopping traffic for so long for non-injury, property damage, only collisions, those types of things. And that's how we train, because we want this to be a tool that is useful when you need it and not a burden or something that's negatively impacting particularly the mental well-being of the call takers and dispatchers.
Yeah. And I think that's probably one of the benefits of having you, and I'm sure other former dispatchers work and be with this company, is that someone who might not have asked that question if they hadn't come from this world, you're there to ask it and to kind of mold it to the things that we do think about and worry about as dispatchers with this new technology.
And we're involved in, product development. Our product team and our customer success team, we work very closely. I talk to my product team at least 3 times a day, and they pick our brains because many of them haven't been in a 911 center. So they look to us to provide, again, the use case, or how does this work, or how would this fit into the workflow of a 911 call taker or dispatcher? And there's times where we're like, no, girl, like that's not good. No, we need to go back to the drawing board.
Yeah.
But they listen, and that's the best part. That's the beauty of being in a really collaborative working environment where your voice is heard and people value your experience and your expertise, and they listen to it. And that's how, decisions are fully vetted and made.
That's awesome. Yeah. I do have a question. You may or may not know the answer to this. with you guys rolling out the universe and the media side of it and the streaming, opening the streaming, do you guys know how the 911 callers have been responding to having that option available to them? Because I don't have that option, right?
Right.
And when I think about getting a 911 call, wanting to use that tool and getting my caller on board with, like, that's the piece that I can't see it. Like, how would I get my caller to go, oh, boop, and then like still be involved with answering my questions, you know?
Yeah. So one of the other pieces that you know, feeds to resistance to implementing this type of technology is the myth, and I call it a myth because it is a myth, that the public won't adopt it. The public is not going to trust a link coming to their phone because it's a text message and it says, you know, agency 123 911 center, please click this link. And then there's a link. And people are like, no one's going to trust that. It says the police department. You would be so shocked and surprised at the number of people who just click the link. They're not even given instructions. They just click the link. And it's kind of twofold. So part of it is there are a number of people who are just not savvy when it comes to cyber safety and security. So they click links. But then I go back to that new generation of people. My friend Brad Flanagan, he's a manager at Picken County, Picken County, Colorado, their 911 center. And he told me recently, and it's my favorite thing to say now, is that the people we will be hiring in 911 centers in 5 years, the people that will be wearing the headsets in 5 years are today's 8th graders. Whew. That's kind of scary, right? Listen, I have an 8th grade son, and I cannot imagine him answering anybody's 911 or any of his friends. So, but that we have to put that in perspective, that we have to be preparing our 911 centers for the people that are coming in. And the citizens of today are those same people. So they're very tech savvy. They're very about efficiency. I tell my mom all the time, my mom tells me that I have an app for everything, and I do, because I am all about anything that is going to make my life more efficient. And that's how most people are today. And so if you think about it, when you call for your utilities company or your bank, most people don't want to talk to a real person. They want to be able to do it online or have an automated system to just go through and complete whatever task they want to complete. So it's about life efficiency. So having a link that you can take your photos and send it right to the 911 center. And oftentimes people click the link and think they're FaceTiming with 911, but that's what they want. They want to be able to talk to someone in 911. That is what we're noticing, is the trend of citizens adopting the technology, because it's the way of now and it's the way of the future. So you'd be surprised the amount of people that are actually adopting it.
So interesting. So interesting. And I asked that question because, like, I imagine, like, my dad, you know, my dad is like, I text him like love that man. I text him a simple question and I'm like, is the sky blue today? And then he would call me, you know. The answer, like that, like, that's a yes or no. Like, I hate texting, Ashley. I hate it. Saw me answer your question on this phone call.
And there are always going to be those people. And there are the people that are like, I am not giving the government access to my phone, my location. No, you're going to be tracking me. And those people are going to exist. And the thing to remember about that is those people are also going to exist in dispatch. There are always going to be people who are just going to be very resistant to change. I say in my class, when I teach about, it's called Be a Champion of Change. And when I teach about change champions, I say, you know, it's important to know that people typically respond to change in one of 4 ways. They are bystanders, critics, victims, or champions. And all 4 of those types of people are going to exist in dispatch. You're going to have the people who are just going to sit back and wait for something to happen. You're going to have the people who are going to feel like it is the end of the world, that you are changing their world because you are implementing new technology. and you're going to have the critics, the people who are going to, I call them the influencers. They're people who already have a voice. People listen to them and they spew a lot of negative things. And so it's important, especially as leaders in 911, to weed through all those people and find your champions. Because when you're implementing any type of new technology, and like you said earlier, it's here, it's already here, and more is coming.
Yeah.
So when you implement anything new, especially technology, you've got to have buy-in from your people. And in order to get that, you got to recognize who your change champions are and use them to influence their peers to be less resistant to the change that's coming. And so that's how we try to teach it, because adoption is hard. People, especially in dispatch, there are two things they hate, and it's change and staying the same.
Yeah.
So you're not going to,
did I tell you?
it's going to be hard to get that buy-in, but there is a way to do it. And there's a way to roll out this technology, not just to your 911 employees, but to the citizens as well. Public education is huge. Our marketing team is really big on helping our 911 centers that use Carbyne technology educate their citizens. So it's, what do you need? Do you need us to write a press release for you? Do you want us to make a promotional video for you that's educating your citizens that this technology is available? When we deployed in New Orleans 911 uses Apex. It's the first cloud native 911 center east of the Mississippi. And when they went live with it, there was an entire press conference, and the media came, and then we had our own videographer that went and documented it, not just for marketing reasons, but because it was historic. Like the first, internet delivered, cloud delivered 911 call took place there. And it was really cool. There are people there that have been in this industry for 30 years and never thought they'd see the day. And so it was a big deal, and it was a way to educate their public on a new tool that they have to communicate with their 911 center.
Yeah.
So that's what we try to do.
And I mean, talk about like just covering all the bases of the company, right? It's like as a business, of course, we want you to take our product. We want you to use our product. And then as people, we want our product to be successful, help a lot of folks, But I think having the ability and being willing to assist a department in branching out to the citizens and educating them on this new product. So when I tell the citizens, like, hey, I'm gonna send you a link, they're like, what you talking about? They're like, oh yeah, I saw that. Like, I know what you're talking about.
Exactly.
Being a company willing to offer those resources to departments, because I think another aspect is that departments are now learning that they need to be on the front of their social media and reaching citizens, meeting them where they are. As you guys have said, right? So you as a company coming into these centers, being willing to assist in that and help them learn how to promote, educate, and give that to the citizens, I think that's awesome.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I think some of our secret sauce is just that. So there's a couple of things. We are very high touch. We want to come to you. I just spent the last week in South Texas. I don't know if you're familiar with Laredo, Texas, but it's on the Rio Grande River, and it's the border of Mexico. And there are 7 PSAPs, 7 911 centers down in South Texas that use Carbyne technology. And they're using it in pretty incredible ways to help find lost migrants that are crossing the border from Mexico, and oftentimes save their lives. But that's what we do. We go to you. So I spent a week down there interacting with those call takers, those dispatchers, their leadership. My credibility is built a little bit because I come from 911. And that is our secret sauce. Myself, Drew, my partner, customer success manager, and our director, Brett Wren, we all came from the 911 center. We all worked in 911 leadership. And so to be able to go out there and connect in that aspect, I think it says a lot about Carbyne. Carbyne is trying to be different. And they're accomplishing that by just our business model, the way that we go out and we again meet people where they are. And so it makes me really proud to work for Carbyne because they support the fact that we know how to we speak the 911 language, and we know how to connect in that arena. So they support me and send me to conferences to speak, and they send me out to 911 centers to train. And, I get to work the booth and interact with people and connect my network that I've already built in 911 to Carbyne. And it's a very smart business model, and it really, really works. So.
No, it's awesome. It sounds amazing what you guys are doing there. How would a comm center reach out, and talk to you about bringing your services into their comm center?
Thank you for asking. We would love to connect with anybody who would like to know more about Carbyne, its solutions, or anything having to do with multimedia in general. Drew and I do a lot of teaching and training, virtual and in person, and we'd love to come and provide that to any 911 center that's interested. You can go to carbyne.com. You can send me an email. It's Andrea K at carbyne.com. Reach out to us on our social media pages. We're very active on social media. Tag any one of us that you see works at Carbyne, and we'll get in touch with you, because that's what we want. We want to connect. We want to show you how these solutions will optimize your workflow. They will help you to, just have a better workflow for your call takers and dispatchers, taking some of that burden off of them. It's really tough to not get a location for somebody, especially someone who didn't call 911, where you absolutely have nothing. And the ability, to use it to send out to a third party. We had a call in Stark County, Ohio, a young teenager left home with people that she didn't know. Her mom called to report that she was missing. She didn't know where she was. And the dispatcher sent a text message to her, the child, and she was able to start a phone call with the child in the car. She was able to get her location immediately because she clicked the link and allowed her location services to be shared. And she was in the back of an unknown subject's car. And the dispatcher will say, the young lady, her name is Riley. Riley told her, I think they're taking me home. They said they're taking me back home, so I'm on my way home now. But the dispatcher could see on the map that they were not going towards her house. They were going the opposite way. And so because she had the location, she was able to send officers directly to where that vehicle was at on a highway and intercept them. And they were able to get Riley out of that back of that car into safety and back home to her mom. And Riley never called 911.
Yeah.
That type of technology has never existed in a 911 center. And so those are the things that Carbyne is delivering to 911 centers now that truly help make 911 call takers and dispatchers' jobs easier.
It's so true, because I was just talking to someone else on another chat, and it came up. I was like, I've answered the 911 call. It's like, it's not an emergency. Like, why are you using this line? This isn't the right line for this. And then I took a non-emergency calls, and they're like, yeah, I just been shot. And you're like, why are you calling on this? Like, why do you have the 7-digit number saved or Googled or like?
Right. How did you get to this line?
Like, call me back on 911 through your technology. And there's a risk factor in that, right? Is like, are they going to call back? Right. In order to get that information that 911 call brings, and that what I want as a dispatcher is your location and whatnot, it has to come through on 911. So if Carbyne's taking that third step, essentially, for those who didn't call 911 or for some reason call non-emergency for an emergency, if we never have to disconnect to get that information that comes through on that 911 line normally.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
And actually, it's better information than what comes through on the 911 line, because it's telling you the location of the device. It's literally showing you where that phone is. It's pinging off this tower within 4,000 meters, any which direction. It is actually the device location. And I mean, it's revolutionizing how we handle emergency situations, especially ones that don't come in on an emergency line.
Yeah, that's so exciting. So
I wish I had it when I was dispatching. I
yeah, it kind of gives you like that FOMO a little bit. Like,
right.
maybe I should go per diem and just kind of test out our system here. So I can.
Yes, my favorite part of site visits at 911 centers is sitting and doing sit-alongs and watching them use Carbyne. I'm like, oh, we're gonna get them. We're gonna get the location.
So cool.
It's the best. It's the best.
That's so awesome. So, and for folks who are listening who are really interested in learning more about Carbyne, I'm going to include all of Andrea's links, you know, how to reach them, how to reach Carbyne, all in the video notes. So don't feel like you have to like write it down aggressively. Like it's all going to be included. So everyone can reach out, get in contact with you, and really get this awesome technology out to as many centers as possible. Because I think the more, I mean, even just for me, I've been doing this for 5 years from my start date to now. Text to 911's been implemented, right? We didn't have it in the last 5 years. It's becoming more and more available to more and more comm centers. And then you sprinkle a company like yours on top of it, who is taking just that technology aspect to the next level, right? In your guys' systems, integrating it and whatnot. So, I mean,
that's why we call it FG 911. It's the future generation of 911.
Yeah.
Text to 911 was next gen. This is future gen. It's
so
here.
It is here. It is coming. Buckle up. No matter what, it will be arriving, whether we like it or not. So I'm glad there's a company like Carbyne combining it all, making it a little easier for us to take it in and utilize it in our systems for sure. What advice, just to throw a bow on it, would you give someone who is thinking about a career in dispatching?
You know, I think that the advice I would give is to fully get an understanding as best as possible of what this type of a career entails. I read a study recently that said there's only like 1% of people in the world that can do the job that we do. It is not a job for everybody. It's extremely undervalued, underappreciated. And when people sign up for a job in dispatch, 911 call taker or a radio dispatcher, I think a lot of people often look at the salaries or the benefits, and everyone's going to have a different why. And I'm not saying that should deter anyone from a career in dispatch, but I implore people to look deeper, do sit-alongs, tune into, different type of podcasts like this, like Let's Talk Dispatch. I was going to wait till the end of the call, but now seems like a good time to just commend you on having this platform available. I was in the call center for 14 years, and it wasn't until the last couple of years that I was able to connect with people, around the country who did what I did outside of my 911 center. I think Ricardo within the trenches was one of the first ones that I was able to connect with and see, wow, like there are people that understand what I'm going through. And so for people not in this world yet, my advice would be to tune into some of these types of media outlets so that you can hear firsthand what it's like, because it's great sitting in seminars, learning about, your pay, your benefits. Dispatch as a career, it's great job security, but until you hear about the person and hear from the person who has insomnia because they have nightmares about calls that they've taken over the course of their career, or dispatchers who have considered taking their life, and the number of 911 dispatchers who have at some point considered taking their life would absolutely shock you. It's heartbreaking, the amount of people. And so to hear those things, not just to deter you from doing it, but so that you get an understanding of what could happen if you don't take care of yourself, if you don't seek mental health, therapy, if you don't surround yourself with a tribe of people who support you through this. I'm a daughter of a police officer. My dad served on the same police department that I worked for. And my mom hated it when we would get together because we talk Metro, we talk 400 codes. And but it was our mutual outlet. my father and I connected on that level because we had that in common. And I don't know what I would have done without him to be able to talk to about, him to be able to tell the first time someone took their life on the phone with me. I don't know what I would have done. So my advice is to truly seek out firsthand knowledge of what this job is and how to protect yourself from some of the side effects of the job, and determine if it's best for you. That is what anybody should do going into this career.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. I mean, it's true. And it's one of the reasons that that I'm doing the podcast and things like that. Because yes, we need more dispatchers, but I don't want to give people the fluffy,
right,
oh, it's a great career and no trauma here. Like, what are you talking about? I'm 100% real with folks. Like, you will be forced. You're gonna miss somebody's birthday.
Yep.
You're gonna be
holiday
on a day. Like, these are the realities of the job. There will be trauma. There are things that are going to affect you that wouldn't affect me, and vice versa. And we need to be upfront with the realities of this job and find ways to mitigate the harder things. And I think, and to circle back to, Carbyne, and I think when we have these technologies and companies coming through, creating these systems that is helping reduce our trauma,
right?
And I think that's the big, if there is any resistance in a comm center when it comes to technology, I think highlighting that increasing our technology does reduce our trauma.
Yes. Put that on a t-shirt.
when you guys patent that, you just
I got you, girl.
But it is so true. And we need to continue to take care of ourselves, continue to do the hard job, and allow these companies, Carbyne, this technology into our centers so it can be an easier job for us moving forward.
Yes. And for those who are in 911 centers, ask your vendors for help. If there's things that you want to do, let me tell you, these vendors, they can help you with a lot of things. You have Telecom Week coming up, and the answer is either going to be yes or no, but I can tell you that with your vendors, often it'll be a yes. So ask them for help to relieve some of your stress as well.
This is so true. Even with just our CAD systems, my departments in general, there's always this big debate about what these systems that we're utilizing can offer. And it's so true. Usually the problem that's bothering either the units or dispatch can probably be fixed. We just don't know how to do it.
Yeah, we don't know it. Or there's developers. Like I'm at Carbyne, our developers, our product team, they are thirsty for challenges. They want to fix your challenge. They are always asking us to get feedback from our customers about what their newest challenge is so that they can build something. And I mean, these are brilliant minds that are creating these systems, these programs, and they want to build a solution to your problem. So you just got to ask. Yeah.
So true. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Andrea, for coming on with me. Yes. Mind blowing. Love the company. I'm really excited for it. It's not in my center as of yet, but I'm like, wow, I gotta figure out how to So yes. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me on. And I would love to connect with anybody who wants to connect. I'm easy to find on social media. It's Andrea King-Smith. Shoot me a LinkedIn connection, and you may see me around at conferences. You will see me around at conferences. I'd love to see anyone in one of my sessions. And also, I'm on the NINA board for diversity and inclusion, and or the NINA committee for diversity and inclusion, and would love to have that conversation with anybody who wants to chat. So
awesome. Again, thank you. I'm going to kick you out respectfully. And then
thank you. All right.
Bye. All right, everybody. That was an amazing episode with Andrea from Carbyne. Again, if you are interested in learning more about their product and the services they offer to comm centers across the states and globally, it'll all be in the show notes. So make sure to check them out. connect with her on LinkedIn. That's how I got connected with her. Always willing to chat and talk with anybody who's interested. If you haven't subscribed, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Leave a review. All those things are small things that help get us out and in front of more folks. I am interested in hearing about your dispatch stories, the good, the bad, the funny. If you do have a story you want me to share, I'm hoping to turn it into like a mini-sode. You can send those to the raspydispatcher@gmail.com. And with that, until next time, everybody, stay raspy. Thanks for joining us on today's episode of Let's Talk Dispatch. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube at The Raspy Dispatcher, follow us on Instagram, and check out Let's Talk Dispatch anywhere you listen to podcasts. I'll see you next time, and stay raspy.